What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. After Sound here, bringing you some more Stepn's content today. I'm joined again by Wimawks. We're going to do our Stepn sessions, and these have been fun conversations, Wimawks. So I'm hoping we can maybe make this a regular thing. But first of all, welcome, and how are you doing?
I'm doing good, but let's hope it doesn't turn into Bloody Friday after it did Bloody Monday after we had our last conversation.
Yeah, well, maybe you and I are the what is it, the horsemen who?
Yeah, we're the ones that control the market.
So let's talk about the macro scene first, and then we'll see if Bitcoin dumps below its all-time high. Then we'll know we're 2 for 2 at that point in terms of controlling the market. But yeah, Bloody Monday. How are you feeling right now?
Yeah, I'm fine. I mean, I think we've been in it the same amount of time since 2017, and like you and I were talking, we saw 20K dip, then 14K, and we thought it was to the moon. And I brought in some people at that level, and we all got punished for it. And you learn, and you kind of go through. I think the big thing that we were talking about previously is I'm not counting opportunity gains as losses. So what I was setting on when Bitcoin was at 60K, I don't think that I lost that. I look at what my cost average is and kind of preserving where that wealth is in the meantime. And I don't see the macro in general turning, right? Everyone says it's the bottom, but sure it is. But all the other cycles didn't have a recession looming, right? Recession hasn't even been announced yet. Some of the other channels I follow and indicators that they look at is we don't see a bottom in the stock market till unemployment is high. And right now unemployment is almost zero. So, I mean, we're in this for a while, and that matches, coming back from the convention, as I said that we saw in supply chain, they're looking at 2024 before we turn around.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
Right. And I think that changes everything. And what's interesting is that's going to line up with the halving.
The halving, right?
Right. And so it'll be interesting on there. I think what this is punishing is not your keys, not your coins.
Yeah.
And I want to hit on that kind of in a macro level of, especially for Stepn, your spending wallet is not your keys. It's your wallet is your wallet. And as long as you have those keys, you have it in there. So people should be mindful that what's happening everywhere else could happen to Stepn.
Yeah,
right? You could have a lot of assets on that spending wallet, and it could go away, and you can still get your wallet back, right? Whatever you have in there.
So you can set up a private wallet within there,
right?
But what you're saying is that you should transfer whatever assets you want to keep safe for yourself onto that private wallet.
Right.
Now, I have a question for you then, since I'm still relatively new and I don't have a second sneaker, but if you have a second and third sneaker and put it on your private wallet, do you still get the energy boost?
No, it has to be on there, right? So this kind of what I'm planning for now and looking at is taking more of that GST and trimming off, where I did have it at 10%. I'd say, okay, I'm taking 10%, putting in USDC on my external wallet, right? My non-spending wallet. I forget what they call it. I could pull it up on the app and actually see, so I don't confuse someone. But I put, I just let that set in USDC. And if something happens, at least I have that portion of it. So I think we want to look at that and where we are in the ecosystem. And I'm still thinking, Bitcoin, I don't know. You and I can't predict. It can go up, it can go down, it can stay sideways. I think it's going to go further down. I don't see any signals that say otherwise. I think what it has proved is that we're all much more educated, like this whole ST ETH,
yeah,
right? That everyone's like an expert on all of a sudden, and it's always existed. But I think what that proves is there's not enough ETH and there's not enough Bitcoin. This is what's causing all the problems.
Yeah.
Right. They're rehypothecating all of this. And I mean, they're essentially using the old banking methods of fractional banking, right? I put in $10,000 and they loan out $100,000 off that 10,000. Banking on that, we're all not going to, say we want to withdraw.
We want it back. Funds, yeah.
Right. And that's what the high staking rates were in there for like Luna and some of these other ones. There was another one. Tron was doing the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird. It's like I see it flash up now, like Tron's got this, and I'm like, I'm not even looking at it anymore. So I think they're good ideas.
Mm-hmm.
But like we were talking about, we're playing with the big boys now, the BlackRocks and the Fidelities, and these guys got a lot of horsepower and they see a lot of things on the end. And the thing that worries me about Celsius, if you're on Celsius, they know your liquidation lines. This wasn't in the past, right? The thing about Bitcoin is you can see where the whales are moving, right? Of the on-chain analytics, this is the thing that changes on it. And you want to get up to speed on where those are at from a macro level, because it's going to pull everything else down. It's kind of interesting. I don't know if you're watching some of the other coins, but even like GST jumped, after the initial dive, it jumped like 20%.
Yeah.
And I think Jewel did like a 50% at some point, or 58%. It's weird that these others spike, but I'm of the theory it's just people cycling in and out, right? These are the day traders in there, and there's just a lot more volatility and less people moving. So that's kind of where I see where we're at, brace for long 18 months, I think. It's already been a long
6 months,
2 years. Well, 2 years.
Oh, sure.
Right?
2 years.
Since all this has kind of gone through, but this 6 months, I think this will be a real bear market, and it's healthy. I'm not scared of 10K. It'll be painful, but as long as you're not leveraged in it, you should be all right. Right. That's what's getting punished now. And I read some other stuff this morning when I was doing my market reviews. You usually see this as short covers. That's why we see this bounce. So the shorts took their profits, and then whatever remaining positions they need to fill, they'll take out longs, and then people will look at it, right? Us plebs will look at it and be like, oh, here's the buying coming in, buying it up at 20K, right? And they'll come back like Sunday night. This is what's crazy about the market. They'll come in Saturday night or Sunday night when nobody's paying attention and be like, okay, we're just going to short the crap out of it on the other side. And then you wake up on Monday and it's like, why did it move another 20%?
Yeah, no, that's for sure.
So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm not happy with it, but I feel bad. And I bet you get this more with, being Splinterlands focused and gaming focused, that a lot of people haven't seen this action before. Just because we've been through it doesn't mean we enjoy it or we want to be right. I think that's the other thing is, there's no honor in being right of seeing a 20K Bitcoin. It's just kind of where I see the cards.
Yeah. Well, it's even if you're one of those people that like predict the bear market, it sucks to be right,
Right.
And then nobody wants to hear you talk about how you were right.
Right. So you're fun. And then you go the other way and it's hopium, and it's just like, man, it's a no-win scenario. But, I think that's when you saw I still think these gaming platforms are the early indicators in this market. NFTs have relatively held up, not USD wise, but people are not moving their NFT prices to try to make up for it. And what I mean by that is they're not trying to save, they bought something for 30 Ethereum. They're not just trying to get out at 15 Ethereum, right? Just to run for the hills and make it. And so you have that whole other aspect. I've been watching, I was gone for like a week, and then NBA Top Shot announced burning. That's another thing. UFC Strike, NBA Top Shot, and NFL All Day all have a burning mechanism, kind of a crafting mechanism now.
Interesting. Okay.
What's interesting about NFL All Day is if you buy a pack and you don't like it. So if you buy a pack for $50 and you don't like it, and I'm throwing rough numbers, and they'll give you $35 in credit back to go buy something that you do like. And to me, I like that because that gives you the chance of pulling the rare.
Yeah.
Right. Especially when you're spending $50 a pack and you only get one pack. It's not the traditional sports cards. I go buy a box. I can get all my team guys out of it. Right. And I might hit some parallel of, I don't know, Mike Trout. Right. And and kind of pay for the box and be good with that. With these platforms, you get like one pack of 4 moments, and they're like $50, $160, $1,000 for super packs, right? And so if you miss on all of them, all 4 of your moments, it's just a huge feel bad moment, right? Because
Yeah.
you got guys you don't like. They're not worth anything because they're common moments. So you've lost most of what you put into it. So I think it's a good mechanism. NBA Top Shot has taken this other one where they way overprinted. And so it's interesting to watch them kind of move. And I think this is what Stepn was looking at too with the recycling. And so you take 10 of your jaw moments, and they have to be of certain rarities. And I think like 550 people completed it, right? But that's essentially burning, 5,000 jaw moments. So it helps both markets.
Yeah. Now, because I'm not as familiar with NBA Top Shot or some of the other sports related ones. When those came out, was there a gaming element to it? Because it sounds like they're moving towards that with this whole crafting and burning, and
there was spec that there would be a fantasy element to it.
Okay.
Just July of last year, they did this challenge aspect. So they'll do like kind of a fantasy, and the reason I don't think they can do fantasy component to it, because then it gets in that weird gambling realm. Right? You have to buy in and you have to hold these assets. And then if you have X, Y, and Z and compete against somebody else, you get something. And so what they're saying is these are the top 10 scores from the night. If you have moments from them, complete it and you get another pack or a special moment. And they've done that. That kept me in it.
Interesting. Okay.
That kept me, because that satisfies my collector aspect of it. Right? Because
you get more if you have like the right cards or the right whatever.
And they've since changed like what your score is. Your score is strictly based on market value, what you paid for it. So that's a benefit, because if you bought, let's say you bought Zion Williams and he was high, right? And now those moments, nobody wants them and they tanked out. Your score stays up there. So you're not incentivized to fire sale and kind of play the market of what has higher value. Like Series 1, very similar to Splinterlands, where Alpha and Beta had a higher rewards return on there. That's kind of what NBA Top Shot did with their collector score. Series 1s were weighted more than Series 2, which were weighted more than Series 3. And so you played this game where you're like, I don't want any Series 3, right? Because the collector score is just so low. I'll just, instead of buying 7 Series 3, I'm just going to buy 1 Series 2 and it'll hold lever. And they kind of flipped that on everyone. We all kind of knew about it on there. So it was interesting. I got in similar to, and kind of a good segue, I got into NBA Top Shot just because it was the first kind of NFT that meant something, that had something on it, right? Because prior to that, it was, Dapper was CryptoKitties. And so what was interesting was if you had a CryptoKitty, one of the rewards at some point was if you held the CryptoKitty in your Dapper wallet, they airdropped you this piece you needed for the Cool Cats, which was their Cool Cats like collection was their biggest kind of reward. And they were the first ones. Like if you completed Cool Cats, you got the little mellow ball, big rookie moment. But then they also sent you a physical device that you could display the NFT on, and then like a jacket and a hat. Like they were the first ones to really say, hey, this NFT has real world experience. And I didn't get in it because of that. It was the NFT that matched what my sports cards were.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
So it kind of meant that. And the other benefit is, like if you and I run into each other at a meetup, it's really hard to show you my PSA 10 graded cards that are at my house. But if I have my moment, right, you can like, oh, look what I have. And if you guys are into it, it's a good share. And I often equate it to, if I had the World Series moment from 2014, that's much more fun than having that clip or that poster on your wall, because you run into somebody who was a Royals fan, like, hey, remember this moment? And then you replay it and kind of go through that. So it had that utility in it. But then the other one that's interesting, because both Splinterlands and Stepn, right, they're coming from a centralized aspect. This is why I brought up the wallet part, because it's very similar. It's not similar with Splinterlands, right? Because that wallet is your wallet, because that's referencing your Hive wallet. So you have those assets on there, where in Stepn, to participate in the game, you have to move it off into the app wallet, right? You have to move it off your Solana or BNB wallet into the other wallet.
And just to clarify on that, because I did take a look earlier, so it is your game wallet versus your wallet.
Your other wallet. Okay.
Yeah. So what's listed as wallet is your private wallet, and then everything else is considered in game.
And I think you pointed this out is this is big because it was so easy to create. And I don't know if people understand, if you're not in the markets or you're not from the NFT world, and you're just an exercise person and you have an Apple Watch and your buddy is doing Stepn and you want to do Stepn with him. I don't think there's the understanding of what those different two wallets are.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Well, what's so interesting about Stepn is like move to earn. I feel like, and I've said this before, I feel like move to earn can be bigger than play to earn. And so with how aesthetically nice the design is on the app, right? Because it's well done. With that being the case, you're going to get a lot of casuals or even non-crypto people that come in and are just like, what is this? This could be their kind of gateway drug into crypto Web3. And so just understanding like, oh, like with every other, it's so interesting to talk to people who are like my parents, for example.
Right.
When I explain to them, it's just like, yes. So, you go on Gemini, you go on Coinbase, wherever, and you buy your Bitcoin and it's like there, but like you can take your Bitcoin off and you could hold it yourself. And I'm like, this concept hasn't really existed because, for their entire lives and for most people, it's just like, oh, if I want to buy a share of Apple stock, right? It's the closest example. I want to invest in Apple stock. I'm going to buy Apple stock. The idea of like taking the Apple stock off of the exchange and then holding it in a private wallet and then just, running around the world with it like that, they can't, it's difficult for them to kind of conceptualize that.
Right.
And so, the same thing here where now NFTs are similar. Obviously they're, digital assets, but you can hold them in a private wallet where nobody has access.
Right. Yeah. And, but there's that self-sovereign, self-risk, right?
Yeah.
If they're gone, they're gone. I feel so bad for the people like, hey, I sent it over here. How can I get it back? And I'm like, yeah, there's no helpline.
Yeah.
it's gone in that realm. So I do like that aspect of it. There was another one that we kind of touched on a little bit, is on the Cardano chain. There's Wild Warriors, which is spinning out. They're doing Voltaire voting. So for every NFT, every Wild Warriors NFT you have, weights your vote. And right now we all voted on how we want the vote to be handled. And so right now it's 15% quorum and 51% to pass. And that's what we're voting on. And I find this as the next realm because now as people bought into these projects, you have ownership of what the direction of the projects go, right? Is it minting a token? Is it creating a DAO? Is it staking? Is it becoming a game? And having the ability to be able to do that and get say in that, I think is interesting. And I see that's where the next big DFK, Axie, Splinterlands game kind of comes from, because then you'll get ownership and be able to build out of that and kind of have an idea. Not saying that these groups didn't get it and aren't doing well, but they are centralized, and that's not the real theme. And it can be, right? If you're moved to earn and you're fine with somebody owning your assets and you like the game leveling up, it's no different than EA and their phone games, right?
Yeah.
It's so I think people kind of get that, but I don't think they can understand the other part, because when I explain it, it's like, well, it's fake money. And I'm like, no, you can move it off. Right. And that's the catch up. And they're like, well, what do you mean you can move it off? I'm like, you just move it to your other wallet and then take it to the exchange and sell it for USD or deposit in your bank account. And they're like, but and I can see them thinking, but I can't do this with my Fortnite and I can't do this with my World of Warcraft. I just like, how does that happen?
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the beauty of it. And to your point, this is going to happen in stages. So I'm actually curious about, and we can probably talk offline more about you said Wilding Warriors?
Wild Warriors. Yeah.
Wild Warriors.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear what what, or at least to follow what happens with that, because, you know, to what you were saying, right now we're kind of going from Web 2 to Web 3, and it's not going to be a clean break, right? So when you talk about Stepn, when you talk about Splinterlands, there's a lot of these companies, or sometimes just, you know, a couple guys in a garage that are creating this, and they wanted to implement blockchain. And if Wild Warriors can be something where it's just like, oh, this was actually born through the blockchain, through the decentralization, right? A lot of these companies are going to try, or at least, you know, for Splinterlands specifically, they want to try to decentralize as many aspects of the game as possible. But now, because they're trying to go there, the person who's starting off and trying to create a project today or in 6 months from now can be like, how do we make it so that we never have to do that? We do that from the get-go. So it'll be fun to watch how the genesis of a lot of these projects that'll be coming in the future end up maybe cutting out some of that time. And I'm sure some will flop, but some might just get it right.
Right. And I think, you know, everyone's looking at the markets, kind of circling back to where we started kind of this first section, is the BitConnect. I don't know if you remember BitConnect and cloud mining, right? So
I remember vaguely, but yeah.
Right. I mean, typical, I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, if I could figure out how to mine. And I don't fault these companies for doing what they were doing, right? Because it was just so new. Well, I do fault. I don't know. It's like, I thought about doing it. I thought about doing UST. I knew it sounded wonky, but it was like, I was going to go in with something to how you kind of got into Stepn. I'm going to get one shoe. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to spend some time in it. I think what the markets have done and proven, you don't have to FOMO in. Right. We're still so early. You're so early. Like, you don't have to leverage your house and take out credit card loans to get in and go in. It's just kind of wait. And when you have it and you've built the capital to put it down on there, you know, go in and you can mess around with it. But I think a lot of people look at the NFT space like the BitConnect, you know, kind of this Ponzi scheme aspect, and I think they're missing the big point of the NFT.
Yeah.
Right. And if you can start building, and to your point, it's Ready Player One, right? It's a governance token and voting on what direction things go, but everyone had to give some utility to it. And like what I was saying on my end, if Wild Warriors is about the only token ADA and their NFTs that I kept, because I knew that this voting was coming on. Right. If this was another NFT that had sold a land plot and then did some tokens and had done some else, but it's just releasing more and more stuff and more airdrops, I'm not into that at the moment. Not saying that they're bad projects, but I don't have time to keep up on all of them.
Yeah.
Right. I've got
also, they're kind of a dime a dozen at this point too, right? Anybody can kind of take that path.
They are. And before we kind of end where the week that it is another one that we should mention that's voting is Rising Star. Right.
Oh, interesting. So, I mean, I'll be following what's going on with Rising Star.
They're posting on supporting devs and them getting paid a percentage of what the star bits are that used. I don't quite know. I didn't quite look at all of it, but it was like, you know, this is what we've worked on. We're wanting this percentage. And I was like, yeah, support. Basically, my thought process is, I enjoy playing your game. Yeah, you guys should be supported. If this is what you think you need, I'm into that. I'm not really researching much on how much it is or how much they're pulling from it or where it's at. So that's an interesting aspect. And it was funny because they had to post basically, if this doesn't pass, we're still playing the game. We're just asking, you know, for more resources to expand out what's going on and do some advertising and, you know, kind of get some traction. They list out the things on there. But that was
okay. This is a recent update for Rising Star?
Yeah, like yesterday or day before, maybe. I mean, it's pretty recent. But then you have to go through and figure out how to validate and stake your hive, and if you have enough HP and resources, you know, the whole hive engine thing. Because I remember when I first got into it, I'm like, why the hell can't I make a transaction?
Resource credits,
what does it mean my resources are gone? Because in another instance, Splinterlands covered that for everyone.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you're in Splinterlands and you're buying cards and you're doing that, and I'm like, oh, there's this whole other rental and I can set up collections and I can, you know, use this other interface. And I like listed like 3 cards and it's like, you're out of resources. I'm like, these guys, man. Now where do I gotta go? And then you got to go get Swap Hive and turn it into Hive, and then
turn it into HP.
Hive, right?
Yeah, I know it's such a process. Like I don't envy like the new player experience, because it's just like, man, there's so much. Like I've been in there for 9 months now, 10 months, and it's, you're still learning something new every day.
But that's the reason I got into them. Right. The other part of the game is there's a utility you're learning. You're learning the blockchain technology. You're doing that, and I'm very much convinced that if you don't put a little some assets or some money on the table, it's really hard to take ownership and own it. Yeah. Right. You can kind of do it for free from the periph, but you're really not in the community, and you're not kind of participating in there. So yeah, I mean that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot in 4 days. Right.
It's been a fun week, hasn't it?
And we haven't even gotten to Stepn. We haven't
haven't
all the changes in Stepn yet.
So let's pivot there, because I'm sure many people clicked on this and are wondering why we're not talking about Stepn yet. But we like to just discuss, as Wimawks says, the week that was. So, you know, where things have been. And to your point, this has been a heck of a week. So it's like,
well, I think the other thing is, you know, when you watch some of these and you watch these discussions, if you don't have a kind of pretense of when the history was there, so like if you go back to, and this was, you know, we can kind of go into it because it's changing. You know, I messaged you and my brother. I'm like, what is the minting cost of a common? Like, where do I find this at? Because it used to be 200 GST. Right. Yeah. If you're talking 4 weeks ago. So if you're looking at a guide 4 weeks ago and you think you're going to mint for 200 GST, I don't know what it is. Actually, I still couldn't find it. I found what the dynamic range is. Yeah. But that dynamic range is based on what it is, like what it costs to begin with.
Well, and this is why I was messaging you, and I'm just like, I don't think that I am like incapable or incompetent, right? Like I'm looking at the white paper, I'm reading all these different things. I'm just like, why can't I find just a basic, like, what is the cost right now? And so, yeah, that's part of the issue with Stepn for me, but it feels as though they're a lot of this is in flux, right, for them, because I think they, I was just talking about this earlier, where it's just like, I feel like they're getting crushed by the weight of their own success, to the point where, you know, people came in, massive exploits, and now they're having to turn a very large ship very slowly and figure out where all the holes are that they can plug them. And they're not going to be able to find them all at once. And every time they plug a hole, somebody's going to say, hey, that's ruining the game experience for me, right? Or that's taking away something that I really enjoyed, or making the game unfair, whatever it is. But, you know, I listen to the Stepn team, or at least listen to the AMAs, listen to things like that. And it's funny, because I literally said this earlier in a live stream, and I was like, I don't look at these as like scam projects, because there's so many opportunities for these teams, you know, whether you go to Splinterlands, whether you go to Axie, whether you go to Stepn, where they could just bounce and retire, like rug pull. For me, the way I look at it, it's like they're here and they're trying to create something. And I would say, you know, for most people in the world, like, would you rather have a ton of money, or would you rather create something cool and awesome? And I would say that most people will go the second route, because building something cool and awesome will probably lead to money, and then you don't need to hide for the rest of your life either, right?
Right. Yep. I'm with you on there. I don't know. The thing is, I don't know if like, I don't think, and I hate to do this kind of link, I don't think Celsius is malicious.
Same.
I think they just got caught out. Yeah. Right. And they're just in a heart, and everyone got leveraged. And I think Stepn came in at a very interesting time, because it's, you know, they're around since November, right? Like all these it's weird that they all popped up at the same time.
True. Yeah.
Right. It's just like, here's these influx of games and NFTs, and we just kind of went everywhere. And I think that's where you saw that bump too, right? Because there's a lot more use, and everyone's like, oh, there's so many people using this. And it was the initial use of all these systems, and all these chains, be it Cardano or Solana or BNB. But I think the big missing part that I've just become aware of, and it's really watching Splinterlands, is the infancy of not where they are, but where the economies are for these, and how fast they can move. Right. I mean, it's just like, no one thought DEC was ever going to unpeg off of it. Well, now,
and not at the level that it did either.
Right. And now you look at let's talk 6 weeks ago. You would have never thought that. Now you think every stable will unpeg, right? It's math. And so how do you manage that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Where there's no trust. It's like, okay, these guys did something over here, and whether Do Kwon and Terra Luna, I still don't. It might have been I don't know what it was, right? Who knows what it was? But I think he got caught out, and he was a little bit hubris on that notion. I don't think it was set out to steal everyone's money. I think he was seen as a threat, and it was kind of a coordinated attack of, you want to play with us, this is what's going to happen, because we're going to control these assets. To your point, that that my parents and your parents, that the people that have power and money, then they're not going to give it up, right? They're not just going to. I think that's the thing. They're not just going to let us do whatever. EA Sports is not going to give up their portion of the market. Blizzard is not going to give up their.
They're going to do whatever they can to keep it. Yeah.
Right. And I'm not saying that they went after that, but there's that aspect that you're going to have to compete with that, and you can't be right and expect to succeed. Right. You can be right all the time, and if you just don't have that effort. And so when I look at the leadership of some of these projects, I don't know if they fully understand how the economy of the tokens works so fast. And that's why everything's in flux.
Yeah.
Right. Like, why would you post minting prices if in 3 days it's going to change? And they're updating it daily too, right? It's also dynamic.
It is. Yeah. Well, okay. If we're going to get let's get a little fuddy here,
right.
Since we've been talking, but what's interesting is, like, when you look at the market cap of the tokens for some of these projects, I mean, Splinterlands is in the tens of millions. I don't know. I'm not sure where GMT is, but it can't be that high, right? It's obviously not higher than, it's not a top 10 coin. It's not even maybe a top 50 coin. But the point, I guess, that I'm trying to get at is, Bitcoin for the first time was challenging and currently is challenging kind of like what the status quo of the dollar is. And to your point about Terra Luna, I felt like the UST was a real threat in many ways, because it was a decentralized US dollar that nobody had control over, right? So for example, like, Gemini US dollars, Binance US dollars, and USDC, the government can still come in and, slap some kind of regulation on that and take control. But if UST succeeded, they wouldn't be able to touch it, right?
And so he said as much too, right? He said there was a nuclear button that if something happened, he just blows it. And it's totally algorithmic. That's
kind of why I liked the project, or at least the thought behind the project. Because, like, if you can create a decentralized version of this, now it had a fatal flaw, the death spiral, right? So ultimately it wasn't built right. But I always thought that maybe not the innovation, but the idea of what it was trying to work towards was cool and worth at least following. But when we talk about these games now, because you brought up like EA, and I'm just like, Bitcoin is a $400 million asset. It was a $1 trillion asset at one point.
Right.
So when you think about the price of Bitcoin being able to be manipulated by big money, just wait until the big money looks at something like Stepn and says, this is encroaching too much on, like, the territory of an EA or a territory of the fitness industry, or, you know what I mean? It makes me think, like, well, who's going to be the one that comes in and tries to potentially crush it?
Right. Well, and to give you, because you asked and I had a similar thought. Solana is number 9, right? Axie is 46 on the list. Helium Network is 49. So everyone can obviously see what I've got on my watch list. That's why I know this. Stepn is actually 98. It's ahead of it's above Harmony.
Top 100. Wow. Okay.
So Harmony is 109 and Hive is 196, with GST being 484, like way down. So GST,
I'm not as worried about GST, but GMT is the one
is similar to SBS.
Yeah,
as far as cap in that range. So I mean, being at 98, it's already it's kind of amazing. It's kind of amazing because I knew of Axie, I knew that it was there, but Stepn was just something that I just ran across.
Yeah.
Right. On there.
So let's actually jump into some of the changes this upcoming week. Did you get a chance to catch any of that AMA? I only heard like the second half of it ish.
I got some portion of it, but I didn't get to go back on it. I think the biggest thing that we hit on is scrolls are live, right? Scrolls are live.
Yeah.
right? That's the big change. And if you look at the prices, there's not
So now
much different.
just for clarification for myself, and I'm sure many others, you
Sure.
need a minting scroll in order to mint now.
2.
You need 2 minting scrolls to mint,
You
whereas
need
before
1,
you didn't.
right? You need 1 for each shoe. So the big thing is, and this it tells back, scrolls are live now. Everyone can get a mystery box.
Yes. Okay. So even
mystery
me
boxes
with
are 1
shoe.
through 10 now, right? Where they were, you had 4 levels, I believe.
Can you would you mind just explaining like the 1 through 10 and the levels?
Yeah. So mystery boxes before there were 5 levels, and now there's 10 levels, and they're available. Basically, what they said, they're available in any luck and at any level. But they came out and said they intentionally do not post what those formulas are.
Okay.
On what the drop rate is. But there was another post of people reporting like what their luck is and what their levels are. And I can share it with you, and you can post it in the link on where that was at that I was looking at. But essentially,
data.
Yeah, it values energy over luck. So like if let's say you have a common shoe and you have 2 energy, and somehow you got that common shoe to 1,000 luck, you're not going to get a level 10. I mean, you might, there's a chance of it, but the chance of you getting a level 10 based on that low level shoe, even if you max out luck. So they're really pushing it. And I think what this shows is they're really pushing that level and using that energy.
So the thing is, energy or increase in energy is the equivalent of like asset ownership, right? They want you to own more shoes. And that combined with I don't think it's live yet, but one of the recent announcements with the sneaker burning seems like a corrective, a good corrective measure, in my opinion, to be able to kind of regulate the supply of these shoes, because it seems like we're oversupplied right now.
Right.
Although you think we still may go down further.
So where it changed was what happened this morning. My brother sent me a text, and he's like, hey, on my uncommon, I minted a rare. So he got a rare shoebox. So then,
nice.
And that's kind of what came up with like where that EV, because I had to add rare into it.
Yeah.
Right. To figure out where it was at. And he's like, well, I think I'm just going to sell it. And if you remember, like when I first contacted you, I minted my first uncommon mint. Like this is the same thought process as like whenever you open a box, you have a 25% chance of getting the tier below it, right? So it's there's just a chance, and I kind of enjoy that aspect until it actually happens to me, right?
Yeah.
Then I don't enjoy it, but it just doesn't guarantee all the way in there. And so the question was, does he sell the shoebox? And then I said, well, what do you want to do with it, right? Do you want more energy, or do you want to sell that shoebox for? I think he was going to sell it for 200 soul, right?
Oh, wow.
So I mean, it's kind of a big decision.
Yeah. I mean, that's not a small amount of money. So
where if you open a runner in that, that's like 90 soul, 80 soul, 99 soul. I mean, it's somewhere in that. It's about half, right? Nobody wants runners because nobody wants to run for an hour and a half. The general aspect of it. But that's what we're looking at that. But him and I had the discussion. I was like, well, you printed it off an uncommon, so you're guaranteed an uncommon. So it's like you should open it, because you are wanting to mint an uncommon, right? It's kind of a different when you add this gaming. So you're not out. It's not like you minted it from a rare and so had the rare cost involved in it, and you could get an uncommon, which would bump you down. Yeah. But I go, even if you do get an uncommon, you can still combine 5 of your uncommon for a rare, right? It still incentivizes you to keep the shoe.
Yeah.
Instead of just dumping it on the market. And it also incentivizes you to open the shoe, instead of just dumping the shoebox on the market, right? And just minting, right? They've now moved it towards this incentive option to actually participate and just not continually mint, not mint shoebox after shoebox and not really care what it is.
Are there any publicly available tools that look at the supply of shoes right now? And you like, I'm just curious if there's tools out there or somebody's been able to aggregate all that data, because I'm curious to see what that chart, that hypothetical chart, would look like now that these changes have been implemented? We know that shoes were just hitting the market like crazy. So
I would like to look at it because I want to see what the historical value of shoes are. That's an interesting. No, I don't know if anyone out there. Hopefully, somebody will post and we can do it, not search it. But I am assuming it's out there. I mean, what is it? Barn Dog would be the closest that would have that.
Well, the thing is, all of that data should be available, right? I mean, it's all on a blockchain or on the blockchain. All right, so that's interesting. It kind of makes me have an appreciation for, I guess, the maturity of a game like Splinterlands, because you know, you already have these community members who've been able to build out successful third-party tools. So so that makes me excited. Like, who's going to be the one that builds these things out for Stepn?
That's how early a lot of this is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even content wise, that's kind of why you and I do this, is we just don't find that content, and it kind of gives us a chance to, you know, talk out ideas and kind of go through stuff. Which, by the way, I went to explore the Binance blockchain because I was going to buy a shoe over there, and I was just like, no, now I got to get on Binance and KYC to buy BN. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. The Solana way was way easier, so I didn't go that route on there. Probably just give me another Solana shoe. But so now you can get a mystery box, which I'd like. I don't like games that you can't participate at all levels.
Sure. Yeah.
Starting at, like, I don't like the chance that you have no chance starting with a common sneaker and 2 energy to never get a mystery box. You know, get a mystery box like one every 7 times, like once a week.
Yeah. Just
right?
something. Now, some of these mystery boxes are empty though, right?
Yeah. So that's
I've been seeing complaints online.
Right. I have not, of all the ones, I'm actually getting better. I'm getting 2 gems out of most of mine.
Can I, sorry, I know this is going to be basic, but can I just ask you if you can give me the 101 on gems real quick? Because I'm not even like at that level. So I'm just curious what I'm missing out on, because
this is good because this is what I was kind of not telling you about when we were pre-talking about. Well, one was that my brother minted a rare, and kind of what that thought process was. So he minted a rare, and he's like, good thing we did, because if you remember when we were, I think where we ended last time was, you know, what we were going to do was, I'm trying to get to level 30, which I'm at 26 now with my shoe, and then trying to get another shoe and not distribute the points to 30 also, because there's talk that once you hit 30, you can use comfort to get GMT, right? That will turn on at some point. So his rare mint is actually a 3-slot comfort shoe.
Oh, cool.
Right. So he's set up now to just level that up to 30 as it gets there, and then now get into the gems. So this is what changes a lot of it now, is because like luck gems is really spiked. For a while there, it was efficiency gems. Everyone wanted an efficiency gem. So the way it works out is they come in mystery boxes, and I don't know about levels 1 and 2. 3, what is the old minimum one, but I've never opened an empty one, and I've probably opened 10 or so, and I don't think my brother said he's opened one that hasn't got anything. And we've gotten 1 gem, like just 1 level 1, and they're worth roughly 1/10 of a Solana, thereabout. But you take 3 gems, combine them to get the next level.
Got it. Okay.
And that changed like December-ish of where they could use gems on there.
Can you buy these gems on the market then? I'm assuming. Okay. I've never even looked at that.
So what I've been doing is the gems that I open. So when I get 2 gems, I'll use my GST earnings to buy the 3rd gem and then combine it, just to kind of speed it up a little bit. Because gems are insane, man. Like you can get 220% and plus 25 points, which is essentially almost 4 levels. And the gems stay with you the whole time.
To 25%, like earnings wise, you can increase your
25 points on that slot. So whatever that gem, luck, efficiency,
it adds. Okay.
It adds that, but it adds to your base as you go up. So like a level 3 gem.
Interesting. Okay. This is fascinating. The more complex
it adds the whole gaming aspect.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. No, I'm loving this. Okay, cool.
Here, let me park that for a minute, and I'll go back to what the levels are, because I'm sure somebody's on there trying to say it. But it's roughly 220% and plus 25 for a level 3 gem will give you where it's at, and then like a level 1 will give you like 5% and like plus 2 on there. So they're very similar to any other gym in any other game as you level them up. But the thing to note is for 3 level 1s, it's 50 GST to combine them, and you have a 35% chance of success.
Gotcha. Okay.
So the way the economy is structured is if out of, I think when I priced it a couple mornings ago, if you succeed 1 out of every 4 times, you basically break even.
Interesting. Okay.
So this goes back to like, you don't really have to be, I mean, you can arbitrage the market if you wanted to spend, you know, hours looking at that and pouring over the data. And I'm sure some people do, but really the market adjust. And this is, I think, the thing, going back to what I don't think they're really ready for, is the market swings so fast, right? So wherever things are at, right, we're going along, we're chugging good, and then Bitcoin drops 25%. Everything else just drops across the board,
tanks with it,
right?
yeah.
And then people, you know, kind of panic and be like, okay, well, I'm not combining. I'm going to dump all my gems on there, right?
Yeah.
And my brother was telling me he's got 17 energy.
Wow. Okay.
Because he's been buying shoes when they were at like 2.2. Like all the things we talk about, he's already doing it right on his. And I was like, what do you mean? So he's way ahead of me. So I've got to get more shoes on there. But he started after me.
Mm-hmm.
And roughly the same amount of investment, right? We're not talking $25,000 that we've dumped into this, right? It's just basically, you know, we've been grinding away, but having that little thing of like, okay, I've got 2 gems. I'm going to spend $3 to get the next gem, and then 50 GST to combine it, right? And that just forwards you. And so now I have a level 3 luck gem and a level 3 resilience gem. And so really, it doesn't hardly cost me anything to repair, and I'm already getting level 5 boxes.
Interesting. Okay.
Right. And so it changes and it gamifies that. But then the next part is your slots. So you have 4 gem slots.
Mm-hmm.
As you unlock those, they're 20 GST to unlock. You have either regular, or it has little triangles, little pointers around it, so you can have 4, and those are multipliers. So if you get like a 2 triangle, I don't know what we call them, 2 triangle slot, that gives you 20% to all gem stats.
Cool. Okay. I appreciate the 101.
Right. So this gets into that it changes it, because now you can really invest in gems.
Mm-hmm.
And as you get those uncommons and as you get those rares, you can just move those gems over. Gotcha. They don't stay in the shoe.
Yeah, they're transferable.
And so like now essentially my earner is a luck farmer also, just based on gems. Like I can still keep it as an earner and then drop the luck gems in there and get mystery boxes. So it's a win-win, right? It's to the point, it's not a feel bad aspect.
Mm-hmm.
I did burn 1 level 2 efficiency gem. I did burn that the other. It missed out.
What do you get
when you combine? You have a chance to miss. So I did miss.
Oh, you burn. Okay, gotcha. Okay. Oh, that's what you were saying. The percentage.
And then it's like 65% when you take 3 level 2s, and then, you know, as you go up higher in level, it's less of a chance. But I put probably 1 soul all together in my luck gem, and I think it's worth 30 soul now.
Okay.
Because it's a level 3.
Yeah.
On there. So, but I still think energy is king until you get close to end game or whatever you can fulfill. This is what I like about the game. It's scalable. Whatever you can fulfill in a session, if you can run for the full 25 energy, you're much better off. Right. And that's the way it should be.
Oh, right? Instead of doing it in chunks.
But if you're walking at the same 25 energy, you're earning less than the runner would be. Right.
Sure.
It's leveled on that, unless you hit a trainer, and then everything's golden.
Yeah.
On the trainer. And that's the way it should be, right? You kind of leveled up. And I don't know how you're doing, but I'm actually running like half of mine now, which I wasn't before.
I mean, so here's what's interesting in talking to you about this. I feel like I'm missing out on so many of the gamification elements of this, because I just don't have enough energy. My earnings are really low.
Right.
So I'm feeling very incentivized to
Yeah.
make that jump up to higher energy, because I've never even gotten a mystery box dropped yet,
Right.
even though I know that.
I think you will today. So the mystery box that dropped today is a different mystery box.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Because I don't know when it went live necessarily, but I know
Right.
that that it's available to me now with one shoe.
Yeah.
But again, part of me, was more so just looking at, like, I want to take advantage of the fact that I am going out for walks and
Right.
runs every day, and they're usually
Right.
longer than 10 minutes, so I want that extra energy. But it's 3 shoes for 4 energy, and what's the next tier after that?
3 shoes will give you a +2, and then 9 shoes will give you a +9. Or give
Oh,
you
okay.
enough to 9. So
Okay.
that's why the uncommon is so valuable, because it
Because it
gives
gives you
you
that extra bump.
right. And so when you're moving through there and doing that, but yeah, this is the interesting thing, because now you have, like, this is what makes a true game, right?
Hmm.
And I don't feel like we do that so much in Splinterlands, right? Like, if you see someone with a Waka, you're just like, okay, they have it and I don't, type of aspect,
Sure.
because it's just kind of out of reach, right?
Yeah.
And where you are in levels, it's just kind of, Splinterlands is kind of grindy. But as soon as my brother got a rare, I'm like, now I want a rare. Right. This is the part of collecting. This
Yeah.
is the part of collecting that you enjoy, of kind of getting together. And I
Exactly.
think
Yeah.
what we're missing that they're getting a lot in Australia are the events. Like, if you see
Okay.
some of those events that Barn Dog does, they get together in the track, and they're all running together and showing what each other has. And I think that's the gamification part of it.
There's definitely a big community
Yeah.
element, right? Like, I always praise the Splinterlands community, and rightfully so, because I think
Yeah.
there's a great community that's been built online, and
Right.
with Splinterfest, that a lot of that I think will start to get realized soon.
I think so
But
too. Right.
but Stepn 1 has way more users, I think,
Right.
at this point, like real users that aren't bots running on treadmills. So whether real or fake,
Right.
there's definitely more users there.
Yeah.
But also, I feel like this is, because it's interesting you brought in the Splinterlands thing. There's no because there's no competitive aspect to it, at least not yet. So really, like, why am I playing this game? It's because I want to progress in it and be the best. It's not like I'm playing against someone else. It's just like, you with your brother is a rivalry. It's not a competition, right? It's
Right.
just like, oh, like,
Yep.
I want to have what he has or more. And when I talk to you and, like, all the things that you're able to get at these higher levels, I'm like, oh, I want to be able to get that as well.
Well, and you see that it's just not some whale somewhere. I think that's the
True.
other thing, is that it was easy for him to get on it, right? I just gave him an activation code, and he's jumped on it. And my wife's doing it, his kid's doing it, his wife's doing it. But the fact that he's just been minting this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and so that kind of proves that it works, because he's at 17 energy, and he's clearing pretty good on a daily basis. Of to my what I thought my thought was earlier, is, as long as you put into it, I think you can still earn what it was. Not 200, but you could. It seems like you can easily make $60-$70 a day.
Yeah.
Right. You just have to put it back in there, and that was the conversation that him and I had, that other people should do. I go, I would sell your shoebox if you're going to pull that off the table. Like, if you're to a point where you're good with where you're earning, your plan should be, you pull that off, and now you've taken away some of your initial investment. I go, but if you're still, because we're still slightly, and we're talking $10-$15 a day, not a day, but every time we get ready to level. So every few days we might, put in $5 to level that gym or something like that. But it's really off the earnings that we already have, right? I take, every 3 days, I take half of my earnings, put them in USDC. I probably won't now, because it seems to have kind of cratered. We're not at $8, and then it's at 25. So if it drops to 10 cents, you're only losing half of it. You're not losing 90% like you were, right?
Yeah, you can't get crazy drops.
But that was the conversation we had. But if you're looking to level up and go further, I would just kind of go for it, and you kind of have those options to do that. But you're not seeing these from like whales or people that have Gen Zs, or that's the problem with, like, DFK. You see all these people summoning, right? It's because they got 2 Gen Zeros and they can
Yeah.
keep summoning for 35 jewel.
Yeah.
Right. And we feel like we're kind of out of that on that end. But I think with Stepn, you know, it's all doable and incremental.
Yeah.
Especially now, it's just so much cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's so much cheaper
So
than
much
it
cheaper.
was
Yeah.
6 weeks ago.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. And I like I said, everything that I've seen so far, and this kind of goes back to this whole, like, you know, you don't need to FOMO into everything,
Right.
because now if things had been, you know, continue to drop and gone terribly, and they still might, right? They still might. So I'm not trying to say that we're in the clear, but you know, I bought one shoe and it's fun. It's getting me to go outside and like, that's fine. But now I'm here at a point where I have skin in the game, as you had, you made a point to, and I see the value of the game. I see the value of the community. I see the value of what the team is trying to build. And it's like, okay, I think I'm ready to drop for a second and third shoe because I want to start earning more. Right. So again, to take it like to Splinterlands, when I think about that, I'm just like, right now I'm playing in bronze with mostly starter cards. And so sure, like, yeah, in about 4 million years, I should have enough to be able to play in champion. But but if I want to, like, I could also like take some outside capital and bring it into the game to help level up, right? But that's exactly what it is. You're getting me kind of incentivized and excited about all these different gamification elements that they have at the higher levels, similar to how, you know, Splinterlands is. But again, it's not a perfect apples to apples comparison. But I'm looking at my gaming journey there versus the game that Stepn really is ultimately, right? Like move to earn, but still gamified in many ways.
Well, I think it's I think where Splinterlands and I mean DFK just introduced duels yesterday. On there, but where Stepn and Rising Stars really, which is kind of weird, really shine is later games is a different game, right? As you progress in that and level up in Rising Stars, you're doing different things, right? You got to go get band members, right? You've got to expand it out. It's not it's based around the cards, and same with Stepn. As you level up, you can play more. That's not really the case with Splinterlands. You're just moving up levels and getting decimated once you hit where your deck is capped, and there's hard caps. Like, I don't know if you've talked about this, but I might just do the reverse strategy and ramp my cards out for like the first 10 days because it's just brutal.
It does get brutal.
It's just
and you could get good rentals in the beginning too, because everybody's trying to grind, right? So
but that's not the case with these games, right? Like Rising Stars and Stepn incentivize you to play more as you move up, right? And you can play more, you know, because Rising Stars has a very similar energy aspect to it. That you can't just grind through, but you can kind of add modifiers to keep kind of going on there.
Well, you invest in the assets to get more energy, right?
Right. But as you get to higher levels, right, it's not just, this is what I always hate. I always complain about World of Warcraft or EverQuest. It's like, okay, level 1 was collect 10 pelts, and like level 90 is collect 90 scales that are in water of some animals that, you know, some monster that's just a higher level. It's the same quest, it's the same collection quest. And like Rising Stars is it changes, right? You're doing different things. I mean, the missions are different, and you can earn different rewards and start crafting different things as you get to higher levels and move to the different sections, right? It's very gamified on there. And I think that was the interesting thing that really changed the whole market for me, was when you were talking about on your channel looking at Rising Stars not from a investment earn, but looking at it from a game, right? It's just a grinding game. It's just kind of a fun game. And when I looked at it on that, I was like, you know, because I'm looking at market cap and tokenomics, and I'm going through all this stuff of like, should I put $10 into this game that I've already got the, you know, I've already got the wallet and everything built, but should I buy some packs and some cards on there? And then I was like, this is not the way I used to game. And that's kind of what I thought was Stepn too. But I learned Stepn's very similar to pay to play type thing, and I recognize that if you're gonna do it for a while, you know, kind of go in and skip a couple levels. Not saying what you did was wrong, but like, you know, I was buying 2 shoes and wanting to mint right off the bat. one of those was because when I got in it was a double mint event. Like you had a 300% chance, more
Oh, gotcha.
chance to
Okay.
double mint. But I didn't know that when you bought, you were on a 48-hour cooldown, and then I bought the wrong way. So like there was just all these kind of feel bad type of deal. But I had a goal,
Yeah.
right? You have a gaming goal, and I think that's what's great about Stepn. You can come in anywhere.
Yeah.
Like if you're a whale, you could come in right now. Like right now would be an excellent time to get some
To come in.
things, right? Because when I look, there's only one epic listed,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you could come in and work your way through there and put the capital in. That prior to that, you were buying commons and.
It's just like you're trying to build this empire of shoes that are all like, leveling up slowly. I mean, I like it because I wasn't even looking at Stepn as kind of like, the gamified elements of it, but
Right.
there's so much that you can do now that it's interesting. People want simplicity to get into something,
and then they want it,
but they want complexity to stay. Right. So that's exactly how I'm feeling right now, where I'm already enjoying it. Again, and the reason I love it is because there's like real world benefits, right? Like it's getting me to go outside and move around every day. But now it's just like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this every day, and I am kind of like in this ecosystem, then maybe I go and I start earning more and I start playing. And to give a little pushback to your point where you're just like, this is not how I used to game. I feel like we got spoiled with the free to play era. Because before that, you had to have some kind of cost in, and sure, it wasn't like in the thousands of dollars for early adopters or even, but there was a cost there to play, and you didn't own anything. So this is just a different model, and I think we're still working out the kinks with it.
But we were very much, especially in November, right? We were looking at games of what we could 15, 20 times our $200 investment. Right, for the next product. That's the way we analyzed everything, and it was really you looking at Rising Star that like changed my whole perspective on all of this. Of like, I spend enough time worrying about what the damn Bitcoin market is. I don't want to spend that time also on how I'm making decisions of what deck do I want to play. Right? It's like, did I want to play fire or did I want to play winter or water? And I was like, oh, this is the Magic kind of decision because you want to pay it. Get a deck that you can flip for the next deck, right? Because that's your thought process. Because especially Magic was so expensive. It's like you went from Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Pokemon to free to play. Like you really had to be a whale to play in those games. That's what people don't understand. It's existed in every
and everything
you've been in, right? And or guilds when you're in other games, and then it went free to play, right? And now we're kind of in this metric. That's why I really think that voting dynamic of what the game is. Not saying that Splinterlands has to do that or Stepn needs to do that.
I feel like they're working towards that with the DAO, right? So I feel like all games will eventually start going, because the thing is, if a game is in Web3 and they're not doing it yet, at some point they will be peer pressured to do it, right? Because if all other games are starting to move towards this, it's like, oh, I have so much invested in XYZ game, but like they're doing it right, and I like the way that they're doing it. If this game doesn't do it, I may have to like either stop playing or reduce my time with it, reduce my investment in it, and start moving over.
And that's the economy portion that I don't think everyone's really figured out yet. Right? Like, because one of the things that I found out with the ADA voting is it's dependent on what wallet you have it on. So like where I run a Dayless wallet that I have everything, right? A Dayless wallet I have isn't recognized. Right.
Oh, wow.
So when the snapshot is taken, I don't get credit. I can't delegate from that wallet to my voting wallet. Right. I have to actually move the assets over for a portion. So, but the thing was, there wasn't NAMI and there wasn't CC Vault. Like these wallets didn't exist when we were minting in November. Right. So a lot of the original ones have that. And until they, and I bring it up, I think every episode, and I hate saying it, until they make it frictionless. Right, where you don't have to understand that, oh, this wallet that I have over here on this laptop actually has all my junk on it, and I really need to move it to this updated wallet to be able to vote on what we want to do on there. I just don't think it'll be valuable at that point.
Well, it'll still be like early adopter stage and not casual stage, right? Like this is for any of these games or crypto gaming in general to go forward. I really feel like you need to be able to pull in the casual gamer. Right. Now move to earn is different because like people can be, it's much easier to be a casual fitness than it is like
Right.
casual gamer, right? Because it's
It is.
just, oh,
Well,
I
that's
just got to get up and walk.
that's the brilliant thing about Stepn,
Hmm.
right? It works for everyone. Like, you're not punished. It's not feel bad that you have one sneaker.
Yeah. It's just, I feel
Right?
like I'm
You're
getting
just
something
like,
out of it.
oh, I'm seeing other people and, you know, how they progress and what the direction is. And I even, you know, I messed up on both of mine. I bought ones
Yeah.
that I couldn't mint,
Yeah.
but it wasn't a feel. I mean, at the time it was kind of expensive, but it wasn't like when I was trying to buy crypto kitties and I'm throwing like $400 to transaction fees that aren't going through. Right. So it wasn't that bad of a feel bad moment.
Mhm.
So I think that's where they scaled it really well with Stepn.
Yeah. All right. I actually have to wrap up, but
Yep.
I wanted to give you a moment if there's any other final closing thoughts on where we're at right now, and then hopefully we can continue this in the next episode.
Yeah, I think everything's going well. Everyone be safe and kind of conservative out there. Don't go over leverage, but you know, we'll talk again next week, and I'm sure everything will have changed again. So
Hopefully,
appreciate the time.
Yeah. Last thing, to your point, because you were talking about just how, you know, people are trying to build out these economies. I imagine trying to build out an economy with the way that the global economy has been for the last 2 years since the pandemic, just straight up or K shape, whatever. And then now, so it's wild, and I feel like it's only going to get wilder.
Yeah, I agree. All right, thanks you.
Yeah. All right.